Hi, in this video I'm going to introduce basic symbology for polygons. So we're going to start with this lake layer right here. And as with line and point symbology, when we use a single symbol for a polygon layer, we have the fill and the simple fill as the default settings. So the fill level of the symbol is going to give you access to the color, the opacity, and then the units. Here, if we click on simple fill, we again get more control over the symbol. And so for polygons, we can control the fill color, the fill style. There are several different styles you can use for creating cross hatches and other patterns instead of a solid polygon. You can also use no brush, which would make it just an outline with no fill. You can control the stroke color, the stroke width, the stroke style. So you have various patterns for the outline you can use, and then the offset. So here, if I wanted to make this a lake symbol, I'll choose a nice light blue for the fill. Something like that. And then I'll give it an outline of a darker blue. And I can make the outline a little thicker. And now I have a nice outline for my lakes. And now these polygons look more like lakes than they did before. The other polygon layer we have here, Comuna, is one that we can, maybe we just want the outline of the Comuna. So here, instead of, there's a couple ways we could accomplish this. We could give it a fill style of no brush. Then we would just have the outline of the polygon. We could also just choose a transparent fill. Both of those would basically have the same effect. And then we choose an outline. And here for the outline, we can choose any color for the outline of the Comuna. And we can choose an outline stroke color. And if we wanted to make this a little more of a complicated, involved symbol, we could add another symbol layer type to this symbol. And instead of using simple fill, there's a variety of outline styles you can use for polygons. So I could choose outline, hashed line, or outline, simple line. And then I could create this dot line pattern for this and make it a little thicker. And maybe I choose a color other than black as well. And pink like this. And now we get kind of that striped appearance of the symbol for the Comuna boundaries. So with polygons, you can choose to use a fill, or you can choose to just have them be outlines. We also have a layer here called for forests. And with this, we can use some more interesting symbology. So first off, we could make this, it already comes in actually as a green color, which is a rare case where the default color kind of works. But maybe I want to choose a slightly different green for the forest. And maybe I'll choose an outline of a darker green color. So I can enhance this forest symbol though to make it even more intuitive. I could add a symbol layer type to this, and instead of it being a simple fill, I can choose a different symbol layer type. So we just kind of briefly looked at these outlines, but there's also a whole series of other fills for polygons. So for example, we can use this random marker fill, which is going to put random points within the forest. And then I can use an SVG icon for those points to make them little trees scattered throughout the forest. So I can choose random marker fill, and it randomly places some red points onto the forest polygons. and I can choose the simple marker component of this, and instead of it being a simple marker, I can choose an SVG marker. And I can then go in and find an appropriate icon for these. So I want to point out that we can use the search box, which you've seen me do, but they are also organized by category, and you can browse these. So in GPS icons, I happen to know that there's a tree that I could use. I could also search for tree. But I can select that icon, and then I can go in here and make it a nice green color. So instead of using the color wheel, maybe I have a color that I want to plug in and use. So I can just enter colors into the RGB values to create a green for my trees. Now I have little tree icons within the forests. I think I will make the trees a little bit larger. And then I'm going to select the random marker fill part of this symbol, and I have different parameters of this that I can adjust. So for example, I can choose for the count method between absolute count or density based count, and that creates a much denser array of trees. I can reduce the point count to make them a little more sparse. The map is starting to become more intuitive. I have a blue polygon for my lakes. I have these forests with trees scattered throughout them, and the train stations with little train icons, and the tracks that look like railroad tracks. So we start getting a very nice map, and we can start intentionally creating symbols that represent those features on the map. I may also decide to move Kamuna up in my layer list so I can see those boundaries above the lakes and the forests. So here we're seeing a little bit more sophisticated symbology, but it's still something you can accomplish with a few clicks. And the key is experimenting with these different symbol layer types, of which there's quite a few. Another one I could show you right now that would make this even nicer is if I select the lakes layer instead of simple fill. With polygons, we also have the option to use shape burst fills. So this could allow me to make a nice faded dark blue to light blue in the lakes and make them appear more lake-like, with showing kind of the depth of water. So if I choose shape burst fill, you see the effect starting to take place. I can do this in different ways. I can choose a color ramp, or I can choose this two color method. And here you can choose the two colors. I could make this a light blue instead of white for the center. And I could even make this a slightly darker blue by using the saturation and the value sliders to darken that a little bit. And then in the shading style, I have more parameters that I can control for this shape burst fill symbol layer type. I can choose set distance, and this allows me to control how far from the edge of the polygon these two colors fade into one another. I can also control the blur strength, which controls how smoothly the two colors fade into one another. So I could increase the blur strength to make that fade a little smoother, and I could experiment with decreasing or increasing the set distance. And now I have a really nice lake effect, and the last thing I might want to do now that I've converted this to using a shape burst fill is to add an outline around the lake. So that would be another symbol layer type, and I would choose again the outline simple line, and then just make that a nice dark blue. So now I have a little more sophisticated symbology for the lakes. It kind of matches what we have with the forests, and the map is really starting to take shape now. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to use something beyond the single symbol. So far we've been creating some nice symbols here, but we're still using the single symbol renderer. In the next video, I'm going to introduce you to the categorized and graduated renderers.